Hey everyone, welcome to the Halloween special of The Dredge. Before the actual interview begins, I would like to say this was one of the most interesting interviews, not just because I got to talk to a friend of mine that I've known for a long time, but before and after recording, some odd things started happening that I cannot explain that are audio. Sadly, when I was going through and trying to, reduce noise and get the best of this coming forward to present to you guys, I couldn't capture it, couldn't explain it. At one point, I thought I was hearing his wife speak to me. Turned out it was not her. She was absolutely quiet and very professional. I don't know. 'Tis the season to be spooky, I suppose. So here is the Halloween special of The Dredge. Hello and welcome to The Dredge. I am your host, Bachman, and this is the Halloween special. And today I have a special guest, and I'm going to let him introduce himself to you.
Hello, this is Z. My aliases are also Jesus and Baba Booey to you.
Alright, now, this special is different than what you guys have been seeing me do so far. But, as you know, my brand is monsters and horror and spooky stuff, and it is the season for that. And, Jesus is a former paranormal investigator that I have personally known for well over 15 years, and I thought it would be interesting to have him on the show, and he agreed, so thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks for the invite.
I guess we'll just start off real simple. How did you get into paranormal investigating?
So, paranormal investigating has always been a lifelong thing for me. It's a journey. As a young kid, I had some crazy experiences that I couldn't logically explain away, and it just fascinated me to seek out, things that are out there that I can't really explain.
Okay. Now, did you do this on your own, or did you work with a team?
No, it started out just on my own, and then, I did join a team, and now I'm back to just doing it, me and the wife, so.
Well, you said things stood out to you that you couldn't explain. Do you want to share any of those experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I don't really remember exactly how old I was. I know I was still living in Jersey, so I had to be in elementary school or something like that. But I was walking down the street, and I just happened to glance over into a car mirror, and there was a man standing to my left, wearing clothes looking like he was straight out the 70s. Mm-hmm. And this had to be in the 80s, mid to late 80s or something like that. But anyway, so I was like, why is this person standing so close to me? And I look around and there's nobody there. Well, hours later, I got home, and my mom comes running in the house, just screaming and crying hysterically. And she told us that her high school sweetheart had killed himself.
Oh no.
And I was like, you have a picture? And she was like, yeah. And she brought me the picture of exactly what the guy looked like that was standing behind me. And that was my first ever, like, supernatural or paranormal experience I ever had.
Oh, wow. So, you saw a picture of the guy that you saw, and you found out that he had killed himself, and he knew your mom. And
Yes.
you'd never seen him before.
I'd never seen him before. No, I had no clue who he was. Yeah.
Wow. Now, so that's the one that made you want to go into investigating.
That was what started it all.
Wow, I can imagine being like a little kid and seeing that, and I mean, we've known each other a long time, and I've shared my stories, and I haven't shared them publicly, so I am like 100% like right there with you. I completely understand seeing stuff and not understanding where it comes from, especially when you're a little kid. And I know that we've talked off the record about you investigating local Alabama haunts. Is there any stories from that, like the children's playground or anything like Hell's Gate you'd like to share?
So I'm glad you brought that up. Because, yeah, like, some of the craziest stuff I've ever had has happened, right here at, like, Maple Hill Cemetery or, DCP.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll tell you the craziest story from Maple Hill. So I was there with 3 other guys, and I was walking around, and one of the guys was with me, and I felt just drawn to this one area of the cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
So I walked over to this, this area, and I started taking pictures, and I could see, like, out of my peripheral vision, there was, like, somebody behind me, and I thought it was one of the guys from, that was with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, hey, do you see anything weird over here? And, I'm steadily snapping photos, looking around, trying to just feel the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And the footsteps started walking up behind me. And then, like, just a cold blast of air went through me.
Oh, wow.
Like, literally, like, I felt it in my bones. And I knew something, and I knew, like, somebody had walked up right behind me and then, went through me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, all the hairs are standing up, everything. And I'm sitting there going, well, that was crazy. And I look, and all the 3 guys are standing, like, 75 feet away from me. And I walk down there, and I'm like, hey, guys, something weird just really happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I start telling them the story. And then, like, the one other guy was like, he interrupts me. He's like, wait a second. He goes, where is this, this guy? Well, there was one guy with us named Chris. He's like, where's Chris? And Phil is like, he's standing right behind you, bro. And he's like, oh my God. He goes, dude, when you were standing down there, I saw somebody walk up behind you. And I just thought it was him. Wow. And it wasn't, because that dude had been behind him the whole time. He just didn't know he was there.
Oh, wow.
So he saw what happened to me with his physical eye.
Wow. And
So
this was
crazy.
and this was at Maple Hill?
That was at Maple Hill.
For those that are listening that do not know what we're talking about, there's a cemetery in Huntsville, Alabama called Maple Hill Cemetery. And behind the cemetery is an actual playground. They call it the Children's Playground, and it is a hot spot for activity. If you go there, which I don't think you're supposed to, but a lot of people kind of sneak around and do it, you will see the swings moving, you'll hear kids laughing, you'll see orbs. And that cemetery is actually known for being really haunted. There's a lot of local legends surrounding it. A lot of famous people that are buried there that are famous in Alabama and the surrounding states. And so it's pretty active. Like Jesus just explained, it's pretty active. And is there, like, I know Hell's Gate's in Huntsville too. Have you had any experiences with that?
So I I personally, like, have not, but I do have a crazy story about the children's playground.
Okay, shoot. I want to hear this.
So, you know, there was one night me and two friends were at Maple Hill, and it was just kind of one of those rare nights where nothing was really happening there. So I said, all right, I want to go to the playground. Well, the two people I was with were like, nah, we don't want to go. So I was like, all right, well, I'll go by myself. So, you know, I climb the wall and I go over there from the cemetery over to there. And as soon as I walked under, like, you know, the pavilion that's leading into it, I just sensed something was off.
Right.
Like, hair started standing up, my adrenaline started going. So I walk over there and I go down into the middle of the playground and I start, you know, just doing, you know, asking questions. And all of a sudden I just hear out of the middle of nowhere kids screaming like they're scared and running. And that went on for what felt like, you know, 5-10 minutes when really was probably just 30 seconds or so. But yeah, like I just heard kids screaming like they were being chased or something.
Well, I do know that they say that the children that play at that playground are the children from the cemetery, because there's like this big section, you know, at the cemetery where it's all the kids that, there was like an influenza epidemic or something, and just all these kids got wiped out in the area. It's really sad. I can't remember exactly where the area is now because it's been a while since I've been there. It's just really sad. I'm sorry, I think I interrupted you.
No, you're good. And so, you know, when the screams finally died down and like I kind of like, you know, came back to my senses, if you will, I was like, all right, I need to like get back up with, you know, my friends and tell them what happened. So I'm walking back under the pavilion, you know, not even thinking about it. And as I'm walking under the pavilion, something loud like either fell or hit the top of the pavilion.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, yep, that's my cue to exit. Because, you know, I was already on edge from what just happened, and then that loud boom, I was like, yep, I'm done with this right now.
I've heard of other stories where people hear, like, they'll be walking, especially, like, in Decatur, there's that bridge out by the water. I can't remember what it's called right now, but there was a sound that, it sounds like somebody just jumping on the bridge, and you can feel it move, but there's nobody there. I'd have to get the name of that bridge. It's like, I don't know if you know what they cut all the trees down between it and the highway, and you can now see it from the highway. I don't know. But, I mean, that's similar. I've heard stuff like that. Where else have you investigated?
So, I mean, I've investigated 3 caves. There's a place out in Tennessee called Bee Spring. I've got some stories about that place. I have thousands of stories about Maple Hill and the playground. So, I mean, I could talk about that in like one episode. It'd be like, this is going to be a multi-part series, but
well, if you want it to be, I'm cool with it.
I mean, I have so many stories about those places, but yeah, like I've been out to Bee Springs in Tennessee, which is like now if you go there, the cops run you off. But because, you know, so many people have started going up there because there's so much activity.
Right.
And they'll try to tell, like last time I went out there, we got run off, and like the cop was like, people say this place is haunted and it's not. And I'm like, okay, buddy, like whatever.
Right.
Like, you know, I know better. But yeah. Like, and it's just insane the stuff that'll happen there.
Have you ever captured any like evidence, like the EVPs or video or pictures?
Yeah, I've caught things there. You know, we've caught EVPs of people talking. You know, I even had a like a night scope, like for like a sniper rifle.
Oh yeah.
Had one of those that, you know, let us be able to see at night, and we looked around like the whole, like on one side of the street there's the church, you know, they even have outhouses still.
Oh wow.
That are still up. And so, you know, I was looking all around that side, didn't see anything. Went around to the graveyard, and there was no fog. It was a clear night, you know, full moon, the whole deal. Over the graveyard, there was a mist that wasn't able to be seen with the naked eye.
Huh.
But if you looked through the scope, it was there.
So it wasn't like fog or anything like that. It was just seen through that scope.
It was only seen through the scope, and there was 3 people there, and none of us, like when we pulled the scope down, the mist was gone. We looked through the scope, and it's there, and it was blanketing the whole cemetery.
Weird.
It was very weird.
I can't even think of what that could be. Like logically, you know, you go in and you're like, well, it was the board fell or an animal ran, but like I don't know what that could have been other than, you know.
See, and whenever I go out and investigate, you know, I'm the one who's like, okay, there's a logical explanation. Like, I go in thinking I'm going to debunk everything that happens. But in those moments when I can't is what reinforces that there's more out there than what we know.
Right. And I think the I don't know what exactly it would be called, but I think that people are becoming more aware of this type of stuff and have been for a while now. Not just because it's all over TV, but like there's stuff going on and people are like, I don't know how to explain that. Where's that voice coming from?
Right.
And I mean, I've been on TikTok and Instagram, and people are like, seriously, like, where is this voice coming from? Where is that drumming coming from? We can't explain it. We're in the country. There's nobody around us that could be making this noise. And I think it's an interest that's only going to keep growing because it's something so unknown.
Right.
So you used equipment like the scope. What else did you use equipment-wise?
So I have a modded GoPro that's got night vision. So, you know, I use it a lot now. I have an S7 spirit box. That, you know, it's something like you see, like, you know, sometimes you'll see them use similar things. If you watch, like, you know, Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, it'll, you know, scan the FM and AM frequencies, create the white noise, and then, you know, if you ask a question, you'll get intelligent responses. And I've actually had, like, spirits tell me their name, like, whole conversations through this thing. And so that, I have it where, like, it has an SD card. I can, you know, it's recording the whole time, you know, so, like, I have all that caught. I have dowsing rods. I'm trying to think what else. I have an, you know, EMF, you know, so yeah, I mean, I had like EMF, spirit box, dowsing rods. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, I have so much stuff that it's hard to keep all track of, but yeah, like, so lots of stuff. I
mean, I think I have the spirit box, that's the thing that like goes through the radio stations, right?
It does, yes.
Now, how do you know? Now, I'm not trying to be skeptical, but I'm trying to understand. How do you know it's not just the randomization of the stations and it is something? How do you know the difference?
So, and that's a great question, because I've thought that myself. You know, it's one of those things where, you know, the odds of me asking a question, like, say, what is your name? And then immediately it hits the right station, and the station says, Jenny or Tyler. What are the odds? You know?
Yeah.
So, you know, we're talking statistical anomalies here. Like, it's not impossible, but it's not probable either. So, but then if, you know, and you know how, like, nothing is pretty much played on AM radio anymore?
Right.
So if I switch to AM and start scanning it and something comes through, you know, then I'm like, okay, you know, there's nothing on AM radio. So it's like, okay, that's legit. But yeah, I mean, that's a valid question, but you got to think about the odds of that really happening.
Yeah. I don't know. I've personally not used any equipment like that, so I really don't know. But that's something I've always wondered is, like, how do people know when they use that? Like, I've downloaded apps and played around with them and got spooky around Halloween, or like, even, you know, on Facebook you can put, like, the dog face on or whatever, and I had a dog face show up behind me, and I'm like, no, nobody's there. And then my husband's like, no, it's the picture of Kennedy you have framed behind you. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he debunked it. But I'm like, seeing people use that, and it'll swap faces, and like the one is the girl swaps faces with something in the shadows and her face goes black and it freaks her out. Or people asking questions like, stick your tongue out, and then the dog face will lick. And it's just really interesting. I know that I've seen people use the modified scanning equipment for games, and it does the dots, and if something shows up, it's like the stick figure, and that seems really interesting. Have you used anything like that?
No, that is something you just helped me remember. I do have a pen light laser grid.
Oh, okay, that's what it's called.
That I can, like, throw up, kind of like the way you could reverse engineer the Kinect.
Yeah, that's
which is probably what I think you're talking about.
Yeah.
Where it would shoot the dots out, and then if something crossed it, you would see it. Yeah, I have one like that I can set up a grid and change the patterns and all that, and if something breaks the grid, then I'll know it. Yeah, so that's a useful tool. That's, like, helpful, you know, at times. But yeah, like Paranormal Activity, like, I know a lot of people may hate on those movies, but there was one of them where the guy reverse engineered the Kinect to put the dots in the room, and that's how they saw, like, the demon that one time. So
I don't really watch those movies. Like, I've watched The Conjuring and all of that, and I 100% think there's something broken in me, because nothing really scares me anymore.
Right.
But I've seen so much that I can't explain. I'm just like, oh, it's Tuesday. That's what's going on. Now, I came across an article, and it really made me think. And I'm going to ask you this question. Some people are saying that when paranormal investigating is basically the same thing as just sightseeing. Do you agree or disagree?
Well,
sorry if I, like, threw that out there on you.
No, it's fine. I'm just trying to kind of wrap my mind around what, like, that really means. But
okay, so you would go to the Grand Canyon and sightsee. Oh, this magnificent, this great thing. But then there's people that go to, like, asylums that are haunted to investigate. So wouldn't it be the same thing? You're just doing a different kind of sightseeing. Wouldn't that all just be lumped in the same way?
So, I mean, I can see, yeah, it could be that way, because I enjoy it. I love doing it. I'm passionate about it. And I would rather do that than, you know, like, go to the Grand Canyon.
Right.
You know, to me, like, just the feelings you get, and and you're furthering proof that there is more out there than what we can admit and what we can acknowledge. It just, every time you collect a piece of evidence, whether it be an EVP, a picture, whatever, you're furthering proof that there is a spirit realm, that there's more out there than what we really know and understand.
Yeah, I think it would maybe fall into dark tourism. You know, people
Yeah.
to like people go to see the walls and the catacombs made out of skulls and stuff. I think that's where it would fall. So I guess it would be kind of like sightseeing.
You're right, because I spend more time in cemeteries and places like that now than I do anywhere else, really.
Well, I remember when my son was really young, I'm like, let's go to a cemetery, and he'd be like, why? It's creepy. And I'm like, because everyone there is at peace. They're not going to bother you. There's nothing that can happen to you at this place. They said you're safer in a cemetery than walking down, the middle of the city where you could get mugged, whereas here, at a cemetery, you're not going to be messed with. You just walk through, you leave your offerings if that's what you're into, and then you go about your way. I've always loved cemeteries. Me and my husband used to take photos. I don't know if you've seen them. I think we had showed you some years ago that we used to take of like the unknown soldiers in Maple Hill and things like that. Since you said that you still investigate, what was one of the more recent places that you investigated?
So, I honestly, I think the last place I went was actually, no, I'm sorry. I was going to say Maple Hill, but more recent than that, there was a cemetery out in, like going towards Tennessee, like in Hazel Green.
Oh, yeah?
And I went out there and did some stuff, and I definitely came in contact with a baby, like a child.
Oh, wow. Those are always so sad, aren't they?
It was, yeah, because like I caught it on video, like on not on video, on EVP of it crying.
Oh.
And right before though I heard that, I felt like I was supposed to go to this one section of the cemetery. And I walked over there, and then on my way to that one area, I had the EVP running, and I caught the cry, and then the tombstone that I felt led to was a baby that had died that was I think it was a week to 10 days old.
Oh, that's rough.
And I was like, okay, I was led here for a reason.
Yeah. Those are always just so sad. The kids and the babies and the crying and because it makes you wonder, why they're still around. What could they have accomplished in their life to make them stick around, or not accomplished?
Right.
I'm trying to think of another question, because I had my list, and now I've run out of my list, and I'm trying to figure out what to do now. Do you have any questions for me?
Well, so do you investigate at all still, or?
Well, I never really investigated. It's stuff found me. It was never anything I actually went to go do. I know that me and you had talked once about me going with you a long time ago, and then it just never happened because we have separate lives and we don't talk much because we're busy all the time. But no, I never really investigated anything. There was always stuff that I would see or hear and I couldn't explain it, and I'm like, well, maybe I'm finally going crazy.
But you're not.
No, I don't know. Maybe it's in the genetic pool. Maybe.
So, all right. So let's do this.
Okay.
Tell me about a recent story of something that's found you.
Okay, there was Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. No, I'm just kidding. I guess. Well, I mean, this house, when we moved into it, we knew some of the history. And I try not to know too much because I feel like it might influence me in some way. Right. But there was an incident where, and I can't explain it. I mean, I really tried to explain it. My husband witnessed it too. We have an animal. We have a dog, and we have baby gates to kind of, you can't go here, you can go here. And we had it up where he could not leave the room because we did not want him to go chasing the cats or getting in their food, and we were in that room anyway, so he was occupied. And out of nowhere, the baby gate just started shaking. And I don't mean like a little bit, I mean like violently shaking and hitting the doorway. And I turned my head and I'm like, well, that's new. Because we have had stuff happen, but not like that. And I turned to my husband and I'm like, do you see that? And he's like, I hear it. Because he's like into what he's watching, and he's like, I hear it. And it stops for a minute, and then we hear it again. And it's like really, and I'm like, what is trying to get my attention? Never could explain it. I fiddled with it thinking maybe it was latched in such a way that it would, like, trying to spring open, and it was pressure or something like that, trying to give or whatever and making it move like that, but I couldn't explain it. My husband has no idea, and what's really creepy and really sad is we found out like the next day that an ex of his had passed away 2 days before, and that's the only thing that we can think of that is odd that surrounds that moment. And that was like a month or so ago. And I mean, I've had other stuff happen, but not as wild as that.
That's pretty wild.
I mean, we've had like, hey, can't find this, how did it get there, hearing stuff, but then we're like, well, we're right next to our neighbors, we're in the city, it's probably that, they're playing their music loud. But I've straight up never had anything like that happen, where it's just violently shaking.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's an explanation for it. I just don't have the answer.
It's one of those Alabama earthquakes.
Yeah, that's it. That's totally what it is. I mean, I think that me sharing that is the first time I've even publicly really said anything that's happened. Because I try to not be too open about that, because I do write horror and I don't want people thinking I'm like, I've completely lost my mind. I mean, I have a frequently asked questions episode coming up, and one of the questions is, because you write horror, do you like scaring people? And I don't write it to scare people. I didn't even know I was writing horror, because it wasn't scaring me. And then I let another writer read it to give me an idea of what they thought, and they're like, this is so horror, why are you not putting it in that? And I'm like, I didn't know that's what it was.
Yeah, I can understand that, because, like, you know, when you're around it, you know, like we are, I guess you become desensitized. And you're like, you know, it's like you mentioned earlier, you know, you're around it all the time. You watch these scary movies and you just become desensitized.
Yep.
Well, and even what you said about you see it every day in real life.
Right.
So movies don't scare you anymore.
Right.
Like, once you come face to face with like real horror and real terror, it's like, okay, throw your best scary movie at me.
Right.
Like, you know.
Well, I mean,
so yeah.
Even with that, like, me and you were talking about supernatural and paranormal things, but I mean, you've known me and you've known like a lot of what I went through as a child, and that was real, in my face, every day, real things that could really have hurt me or did hurt me. So when I hear something, I'm just like, it's not doing anything to me. Or like, I'm more afraid of, you know, the guy down the street that may be wanting to break into my house, not the voice that I heard or the stomping in the attic or whatever it is. Like, my brain just doesn't make me freak out over that. I'm more worried about, like, the real thing. Not that that's not real, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, the physical danger of, you know, the person trying to break in, as opposed to, oh, yeah, you know, the bathroom door slamming shut by itself.
Yeah, but normally if that's happening, I'm like, damn cat.
Right.
Because we got the 2 cats and we got the dog, so I normally just blame one of them. But that gate thing, the dog was like between me and the husband. The cats were nowhere near. kid was asleep, my mother was asleep, and I have no way of explaining it.
Right. No, I know what you mean.
Well, we're going on about 33, 34 minutes. Is there anything you want to talk about? I know that your wife makes dolls. Do you want to talk about those?
Sure. I will take a moment to talk about those. So we do collect, like, the antique porcelain dolls that, we get from, like, estate sales or, thrift stores, or people give them to us because they're too scary to keep in their house. And, then she'll take them because she has all the talent. I have zero talent. And, she'll take them and she'll do different things to them, like make them scary, like put paint on them, or, give them horns, or just different things, scalp some of them, and they'll be holding their scalp, or, just various things like that. And now, so she's really talented in that sense, but some of these come in, we bring them into the house, and, we don't cleanse them right away because, because of me, I like to be like, all right, well, let's see if there's something attached. And then, I'll try to talk to them, and sometimes we do find that they are vessels, and they'll have, spirits attached or trapped inside, and they'll, they'll tell me their name, and we'll have conversations, and, that kind of thing. But yeah, and then, of course, once we've kind of done that, then we'll go through the proper cleansings and whatever. But yeah, so that's, and then we do go to cons, and
you recently just went to one. How was that?
So we did go to Scarefest in Lexington, Kentucky, and that was really cool. I don't know if you know who Ted Raimi is, but a cool moment is the brother of Sam Raimi, from like Evil Dead, Ash vs. Evil Dead. All
well, I mean,
I've
heard of him. I don't know him personally or anything, but yes,
yeah. But like like if you're into like the Bruce Campbell flicks from back in the day, the Evil Dead movies, all those. Well, Ted Raimi, is in those. His brother produces them, directs them, whatever. Well, Ted Raimi was at this particular con, and this was just one of those cool, priceless moments. He walked over, like he took a break from, greeting fans and whatever, walked over to the booth, looked at the dolls, and just like, oh my God, the detail. And if somebody like Ted Raimi is saying something like that,
right.
There's got to be something to it, because he kind of knows what he's talking about.
Well, I would hope so.
Right? But yeah, so that was just a really cool moment, and we did get to meet Dave Tango and Steve from Ghost Hunters, Ghost Nation.
Oh yeah, I know who they are from watching the show.
Yeah, and they came by the booth. They were really cool people, talked to us, they were just real down to earth guys, and they were really cool. So
that's really, really cool. Do you have a website that people can go look at these dolls, maybe purchase one, or do they have to like show up at a convention that you're at?
No, there is a website, and that website the website is etsy.com /shop/monster cherry dolls. But if you go to any socials, and do a search for monster cherry dolls, I'm sure something's going to come up. So
now, I saw the pictures that you posted, and I saw the one with the little devil horns, and I was really curious about some of these dolls. And I wasn't, because I don't really know your wife, so I didn't want to like just start throwing a bunch of questions at her. But I was curious, like where people get them, where y'all are getting them. That's why I decided to bring them up. Now, I am curious. You say that you go to estates and you collect these dolls and you cleanse them. What... Okay, how do I phrase this? Do you think people would be more wanting of them if they were left haunted?
So, that, that's debatable. I know there are people who that's their thing, but then we do, like, get our share of people, who are gonna buy one, and they're like, wait, this doll's not haunted, is it?
Uh-huh.
And they'll be like, because I don't want it if it is. And, so in that case, we're like, no, not at all. But we did actually bring one to this last con that is a vessel. Ooh. And normally it's one that we don't bring, but my wife felt like she was supposed to bring it for some reason. Mm-hmm. So we brought it, and then, like, somebody went by our booth, and they stopped, and they were like, there's something in this doll.
That's
and
funny.
We're like, okay. And, we didn't volunteer any information. Mm-hmm. We just kind of let them tell us, tell me more about that. So they started telling us, like, this doll has a soul inside of it. Mm-hmm. And it, they started describing all this stuff. And it's a lot of stuff that I was able to I didn't tell them this, but it was stuff that I was able to confirm in a spirit box session with this doll. Mm. So that was pretty interesting, because they were telling me and validating stuff that I knew, but they had no way to know that because they were a complete stranger.
Well, that's kind of cool. That means that, like, they're sensitive to that stuff.
They were, yeah. They were definitely.
Now, I think...
She definitely was.
I think the question is pretty obvious. If you have these things that are haunted, that are living, or I guess not living, that are inhabiting these doll vessels, how are you protecting yourself from getting hurt from these things?
So we do have, protection spells in place. Mm-hmm. So things like that to keep things where they should be. And nothing real crazy. Like, we haven't had any Annabelle situations.
Well, that's good.
Breakout. So, we do have spells in place to keep us safe. Mm-hmm. We do, things like that. So, so far everything's holding up, and, they're there. We all just coexist, and, they're not angry. They're not aggressive. I talk to them frequently. So, they have an outlet. Oh, I'm sorry. I left out a part of that story, though.
Oh, did you?
I did. I got sidetracked.
Sorry.
I saw something. I saw a piece of candy. Turns out this doll likes to watch people, the spirit inside.
Oh, that's not creepy.
And that's, and we normally don't bring this one, but we did this time because, we felt like we were supposed to. So it got to see, thousands of people walking by. And so, it really enjoyed being out in a place where, it could watch all these people. And, but yeah, none of them, seem malevolent. They're not aggressive. They're not trying to hurt us. We talk to them, frequently, and, just have normal conversations. So.
I'm sorry, I just totally got an image in my head of y'all, like, sitting at the dinner table, and the dolls are sitting there, and you're having, like, a little tea party, and just talking to them like they're people. So these dolls that are haunted, they're not, like, got demons in them. They're just, like, energy of people?
Yeah, they're not anything that's trying to hurt us. They've never given us any reason to think we're in danger. So.
Huh. That's interesting. I'm curious, because I'm sorry if I'm, like, asking a lot about these dolls. I didn't think I was gonna, but now I'm, like, super into it. I know that back in the day, people used to make dolls of their children and put some of the children's hair with the doll. Is that what's going on with some of these dolls? Is like they're real human hair, or they're attached to a child that's gone, or...
So,
I'm sorry if that's like too much.
No, you're good. I mean, unfortunately, we don't really get to know a lot of the backstories behind these dolls, except like maybe like, if whatever spirit or energy is attached to it tells us. Some of the stuff, we get is like, the person passed away and the family's just trying to get rid of the dolls, or, and they don't really tell it. So we don't really know. We never really know what we're getting. So I can't really give you an accurate answer to that, because I just don't know if it's real hair, fake hair,
I'm sorry if I'm like asking questions. I'm not trying to be rude or anything, or disrespectful. I know a little bit about some of this stuff. That's why I'm asking. Do you think that, or, I mean, I'm sure that it would tell you if it didn't like what art had been done on the doll, right?
Oh, yeah, because it definitely would. Because, we know some of the dolls move. They'll get up and relocate themselves to a place they like better. Because like there's been times where I've walked into the room and I've been like, hey, wasn't this doll here? And then it'll be in a different spot, or its head will be turned around. The kids, our kids are afraid to go in this particular room where we keep all the dolls, obviously. So really it's just me and the wife will go in there. But I don't I don't go out of my way to like move the dolls a certain way, and I know she doesn't either. We just kind of put them down, and then we'll come back and be like, hey, that wasn't like that before. And so, I start like, taking pictures of the room, one day, and then come back the next day and they're like a different way, and it's like, But yeah, I mean, if they didn't like what was being done to them, they would tell us for sure. And then we'd be like, okay, well, it can be undone, or we can, we can work out something, negotiate.
Now, do you just have haunted dolls, or do you have other haunted objects that you're collecting?
So, as of right now, I don't go out seeking haunted objects. Like, we don't do that. That's not our thing. We're not trying to, create, like, a museum or anything like that.
Yeah, that was, like, my next question.
Yeah, no, that's never was our intention to just, like, go seeking out haunted objects. There are other people who do that, and that's cool for them. But, no, we do this thing with the dolls because it's something that, we're passionate about, and we enjoy working with, old dolls. And so, we have dolls that aren't haunted. We just happen to stumble across some that are. It's not really like,
Oh, so you're not like seeking out haunted dolls, you're just ending up with them.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you investigate the paranormal, you collect dolls that you sell. What else do you do in this realm?
So, in this realm, I do, I've started doing tarot, scrying. Of course, I use the dowsing rods as well. And, until I started working with those, like, I was a ghost hunter before I ever figured out what those were. But then it's like, once I was like, hey, this can work in ghost hunting and investigating as well. So yeah, it's kind of funny how all that stuff crosses over, but so it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, I do tarot, I do scrying, I do, obviously I mentioned I do spells, things like that, but that's really the extent of that.
Okay. Well, I guess that we can end it now. I mean, we're going on almost an hour of recording, and I really appreciate you being on the show for the Halloween special, and you are also the first guest I've ever had. And woohoo! I don't know if this will be something that's common, having guests on, but I wanted to do something special for Halloween. I know people expect me to do something, post something for Halloween in October, and normally it's me talking about monsters and things like that because of the stories I write. But I will end it here. Thank you for being here. And that is the Halloween special from the Dredge. Thank you.
Well, thank you.